The Whisper Before the Fall. The camera pans across a gold-accented conference room. Marble floors gleaming under a chandelier worth more than a car. At the center, Richard Hale, the powerful CEO of Hale Corp International, flashes his trademark smile. He's about to close a $500 million deal that will change his life forever. Everything looks perfect. The investors are laughing. Champagne glasses are ready, and the air is thick with success. But what none of them know is that one whisper, just one sentence, will destroy everything they built in seconds. Gentlemen, Richard says, signing the final page, we just made history. The Arabic businessman, Mr. Khalid Al-Nasser, nods politely. He slides the final folder forward. His eyes flicker, almost too calmly. There's something about his silence, something Richard doesn't notice. Just then, a soft voice cuts through the silence. It's the maid's daughter, Amira, a quiet 19-year-old girl standing by the refreshments table. She's holding a tray barely noticed by anyone in the room, but she's watching closely. She hears Khalid's assistant whisper something in Arabic. It's short, sharp, secretive, and Amira's eyes widen instantly. Her hand trembles, the tray shakes, a glass slips and shatters on the floor. Everyone turns. Richard glares. Who let this child in here? The room goes silent. Khalid just smiles, a thin, unreadable smile. Amira looks terrified, but she can't stay quiet anymore. Her voice trembles, but her words cut like a blade. Sir, don't sign that paper, please. You don't understand what they just said. Richard frowns. What do you mean? She hesitates, then whispers, they said. Once you sign, you're no longer the owner of Hale Corp. The room freezes. Every eye turns to Khalid. For the first time, that calm smile fades. A beat of silence. Richard's pen drops. The deal of the century just turned into a trap. The words that changed everything. The room was silent. Not the kind of silence that comes from peace, but the kind that follows a gunshot you didn't hear yet. Every pair of eyes turned to the young woman who had dared to speak. Amira stood there, her hands trembling slightly as she held the scattered papers from the floor. The CEO, Richard Kane, squinted at her as if trying to place her face in his memory. Who are you again? He asked, his voice sharp, yet uncertain. She took a small breath. Just someone who reads Arabic better than your lawyers, sir. A faint murmur went around the table. The Arab businessman sitting opposite the CEO, Sheikh Omar Al-Masri, raised an eyebrow. A smile, calm, confident, dangerous, spread across his face. Interesting, he said softly, his English smooth but laced with authority. Please enlighten us, Ya bint al-Qadima, daughter of the maid. The insult wasn't missed, but Amira didn't flinch. She had grown up hearing worse. She straightened her back, eyes locked on Richard. This contract, she said, holding up the final page, ... is not what you think it is. Richard forced a smirk. Oh, really? My legal team reviewed every word. We've spent months on this. Yes, she replied quietly, but you review the English version, not the Arabic one. The words hit like a hammer. One of the executives shifted uncomfortably. Another whispered, wait, there's an Arabic version. Omar leaned back in his chair, adjusting his gold cufflinks. It's standard in our culture. Every document is mirrored in Arabic for authenticity. Surely, your team agreed to that? Richard's expression darkened. He remembered the clause. It had seemed harmless at the time, a mere formality, something about dual language equivalence. But now, standing before him was the daughter of his maid, exposing a crack in a $500 million deal. Amir's voice was steady now. In your English contract, Mr. Kane, it says the company retains controlling interest of 55%. She paused, flipping to the Arabic page. But in Arabic, she tapped the words. It says the controlling interest shall transfer to the investor upon activation of the agreement. The room exploded. What? One of the lawyers shouted. That can't be right. Another executive snatched the contract and began reading, eyes widening with every line. Omar didn't move. He simply watched the chaos with calm amusement, his fingers steepled. Richard's voice was shaking now. Are you saying, if I sign this, I lost the company? Amira nodded slowly. Not just lose it, sir. You hand it over completely. All assets, patents, properties, everything. The Arabic text makes it legally binding in their jurisdiction. A heavy silence returned. Omar's smile never faded. I must admit, he said softly, you have a sharp tongue, young lady, but perhaps you misunderstood. Our intentions, Amira cut him off, are written clearly, Sheikh Omar. I didn't misunderstand anything. Richard turned toward Omar, his voice trembling with anger. You tried to trick me. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed. Business is about intelligence. Mr. Kane, if you sign something you don't understand, you have no one to blame but yourself. The temperature in the room dropped. The bodyguards at the door stiffened as the tension between the two men mounted. Amira took a step back, her heart pounding. She knew she had just turned a boardroom deal into a war zone, but she couldn't let her silence cost hundreds of employees their future. Richard ran a hand through his hair, pacing. We need to verify this. Get our translator now. One of the assistants hurried out. The others began flipping through documents, whispering furiously. Omar simply leaned back, watching like a lion waiting for prey to exhaust itself. Do you know, Omar said quietly, in our culture, silence during a deal means consent, and your lawyer was silent when that clause was read. Richard froze. He remembered. That day in Dubai, when the contract was read aloud, his lawyer hadn't said a word. Because, Omar continued, his tone silk and steel, he did not understand Arabic. Amira's heart was pounding. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a trap. A $500 million trap. Flashback to 2 months earlier. Amira's mother had worked at the Kane residence for over 15 years. Quiet, loyal, and invisible like every servant was expected to be. But Amira wasn't invisible. She had grown up in the same house, listening to conversations that weren't meant for her ears. She studied hard, earned a scholarship, and became fluent in Arabic partly because her mother once served at the embassy of a Gulf royal family. One night, Amira overheard a conversation between her mother and the CEO's secretary. Something about a deal with Sheikh Omar and dual language contracts. Her instincts tingled. She began researching Omar's company and found several lawsuits hidden, buried in legal jargon. Companies that had been absorbed after signing bilingual agreements. Now, standing in that room, everything she had feared was unfolding. Back in the present, Richard slammed his fist on the table. You planned this from the start, he hissed at Omar. You wanted me to hand over my company. Omar didn't deny it. He just smiled. In business, Mr. Kane, one man's ignorance is another man's opportunity. Richard turned toward Amira. And you, how do you even know all this? She looked at him with quiet defiance. Because, sir, I grew up cleaning your house while listening to the language your partners spoke. You never noticed me, but I noticed everything. A hush fell again. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it with the calm certainty of someone who knew the truth could destroy everyone in the room. The translator finally entered, a middle-aged woman in glasses. Carrying a laptop, she read both documents carefully, her lips tightening. When she looked up, her voice was grim. She's right. The Arabic text transfers full control to Sheikh Omar's company. It's a total acquisition, not a partnership. Gasps, curses, panic. Richard's eyes went wide. You son of a... Omar stood, raising a hand calmly. You should thank the girl. Mr. Kane, she just saved you from making the biggest mistake of your life. But remember, his voice dropped, every savior has a price. Amira frowned. What do you mean? He looked directly at her now. You've embarrassed a very powerful man in front of his investors. Do you think there will be no consequence? The words hung in the air like smoke. Omar buttoned his jacket, turned to leave, and said in Arabic as he passed her, You just started a war you cannot finish. And then he walked out. Amira's hands were cold. Her mother, standing in the corner, had tears in her eyes. Richard looked at Amira with something between gratitude and fear. Whoever you are, he said quietly, you just saved my company. But you may have made yourself a target. Amira didn't reply. She just looked at the Arabic pages still fluttering in her hands. The ink felt heavier now, like the weight of secrets and enemies she couldn't see yet. As the room slowly emptied, she whispered to herself, "This isn't over." And somewhere in the city, a man in a gold thobe made a single phone call. In Arabic, he said one chilling line, "Find the girl." The Arabic trap exposed. The room was frozen. Every heartbeat echoed louder than the ticking clock on the wall. The maid's daughter stood quietly, her small hands trembling as she held onto the cleaning cart. Her eyes darted nervously between the CEO and the Arabic businessman. She took a deep breath and said softly, "Sir, this contract isn't yours. It's not the one your office prepared." Everyone stared at her, confused. The CEO leaned forward, brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" The girl hesitated but continued. "Last night, after everyone left, my mother was cleaning this room. That man," she pointed toward the Arabic businessman, "he came back with another folder. It looked exactly the same as yours, but the seals were black, not blue. He switched it." The entire room went dead silent. The Arabic businessman's confident smile vanished. He slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "You dare accuse me? You're just a maid's child." But the CEO raised his hand, stopping him cold. "Enough. Let her finish." The girl swallowed hard, her voice shaky but determined. "I've seen your contract before, sir. The original one had blue embossed seals. My mom told me never to touch it. But when he came last night, I saw him switch the folders." The CEO quickly opened the contract that was lying in front of him. His eyes narrowed. "She's right," he said quietly. "The seals are black." The lawyer beside him rushed to open another copy from the archives. His face turned pale. "Sir, if you had signed this version, the ownership of our Dubai branch would have transferred to his private company. You would have lost control of $500 million. Gasps filled the room. The Arabic businessman's expression turned cold. He tried to laugh it off. "It's a misunderstanding, perhaps a translation error." But the CEO slammed his hand on the table, so hard that the sound cracked through the silence. "Enough lies," he thundered. "You tried to steal this company with a forged document. You wanted to play a game, but you forgot whose table you were sitting at." The businessman straightened his suit, trying to look calm. "You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone? Do you know who I am?" The CEO leaned closer, his voice low but dangerous. "Oh, I know exactly who you are. A man who thought his money, his accent, and his arrogance could blind everyone. But not today." The businessman smirked faintly. "You'll regret this." "No," the CEO said coldly, pulling out his phone. "You will?" The security officers stepped forward from the back of the room. "Leave the briefcase on the table," the CEO said, his tone sharp, "and pray that the law in your country is kinder than mine." The Arabic businessman glared one last time, then turned away as the guards escorted him out. The heavy doors closed behind him with a metallic thud, like the sound of his power collapsing. The CEO slowly turned toward the maid's daughter. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Amara," she whispered. He nodded thoughtfully. "Amara, you just saved this company from the biggest scam in its history." Her mother stepped forward quickly, fear and tears mixing on her face. "Sir, please." She didn't mean to cause trouble. "Don't fire me." She just wanted to help. The CEO smiled. For the first time that day. "Fire you? No. You and your daughter have done something no one in this room could do. You saw what others ignored." He looked at his assistant. "Cancel all current negotiations, and make sure every document in this building is verified by a new legal team." Then turning back to Amara and her mother, he said softly, "I want you both to stay. Amara, you're smart, brave, and observant. I'd like to offer you an internship here, if you're willing." Amara's eyes widened in shock. Her mother covered her mouth with her hands. "An internship," she whispered. The CEO smiled. "Yes. We could use a mind like yours." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. He nodded. "Don't thank me. You earned it." Later that evening, after everyone had left, the CEO stood alone in the dim conference room. Papers were still scattered across the table. He stared at the contract. The black-sealed folder now lying open, the proof of a betrayal narrowly avoided. He picked up a note that had fallen out of the briefcase. It was written in Arabic. He called for his translator, who read it aloud. It says, "Power is taken, not given." The CEO smirked. "Not this time." He turned off the lights, leaving the golden reflection of the city shimmering through the window. For the first time in years, he realized true power doesn't come from wealth or titles. It comes from honesty, courage, and sometimes from the most unexpected voice in the room. The aftermath of betrayal. The city lights of Dubai shimmered through the glass walls like molten gold, casting long reflections on the polished floor of the CEO's office. It was almost midnight. Most employees had gone home hours ago. The only sound was the low hum of the air conditioning and the faint ticking of the clock. But the CEO, Alexander Gray, wasn't ready to leave. He stood near the massive window, hands in his pockets, looking down at the quiet city. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about profits, mergers, or contracts. He was thinking about trust, something he had spent decades selling but never really understood. He could still hear Amra's trembling voice echoing in his mind. "Sir, this contract isn't yours." She had spoken with fear, yet truth, something his entire legal team had failed to see. Alexander smirked bitterly to himself. "So much for my Harvard-trained lawyers," he murmured. He turned, eyes falling on the black-sealed folder lying on his desk, the same forged contract that could have destroyed his company and reputation in a single signature. He flipped through its pages one last time, shaking his head. Every clause was brilliant, devious, written to appear legitimate yet dripping with deception. It wasn't just business betrayal. It was a declaration of war. At that moment, his assistant, Maya, entered quietly. "Sir, the police have confirmed the arrest," she said softly. "The Arabic businessman is being held for fraud and attempted corporate theft." Alexander nodded slowly. "Good, but this is just one piece of the puzzle." He closed the folder, his expression turning cold and calculating. "Maya, I want you to dig deeper. I want to know who else knew about this, inside or outside this company. Someone gave him access to our documents." She hesitated. "You think it's an insider?" He looked at her sharply. "No, I know it is." He walked over to his desk and pressed the intercom. "Security, lock down access to all high-level data. No one downloads, edits, or exports anything until further notice." "Yes, sir," the voice replied. Alexander leaned back in his chair, the weight of the day pressing down on him. It wasn't just about a deal anymore. It was about betrayal from within. And if there was one thing he hated more than failure, it was betrayal. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across town, Amara and her mother were sitting in silence. The evening's chaos still echoed in their minds. Her mother, Layla, broke the silence. "You shouldn't have spoken up, Amara. People like us. We don't interfere with the rich. It's dangerous." Amara looked down, fidgeting with her bracelet. "But, Mama, it was wrong. I couldn't just watch him sign something that would ruin his company." Layla sighed, her eyes filled with both fear and pride. "You have your father's courage," she said softly. "He used to do the same, stand up when no one else dared." Amara smiled faintly. "Do you think I'll get to work there someday for real? Not just as a cleaner's daughter?" Her mother brushed her hair lovingly. "You already started, Habibti, when you spoke the truth." Amara smiled, but deep down she couldn't shake off a strange thought. Why did the Arabic businessman switch the files in such a risky way? And who let him in after hours? She didn't know yet. But that question was about to lead her straight into something far more dangerous. The next morning, the company buzzed with whispers. Everyone had heard the story. How a maid's daughter had saved a $500 million contract. Some praised her bravery, others mocked the idea that a nobody could be the hero. But Alexander, he was already a step ahead. At exactly 10 a.m., he walked into the boardroom. His presence silenced the entire floor. He glanced around the room at the senior executives seated before him, men and women who had worked under him for years. "Someone here," he began, "sold access to our documents. Someone inside this company helped that man." His tone was cold. Each word sliced through the air. Gasps echoed through the room. He placed the forged contract on the table. Whoever it was, they weren't just greedy. They were smart. They knew where we kept our classified documents, and they knew our systems better than anyone. The tension was thick enough to choke on. No one moved. No one spoke. Alexander scanned their faces one by one. Then, he said quietly, if I don't find the traitor, the police will. He walked out of the room, leaving a heavy silence behind him. Later that day, while reviewing security footage, Alexander noticed something unusual. A small reflection on the glass wall near the main conference room door. Zooming in, he saw it clearly. A silhouette standing in the hallway just after hours, and the reflection revealed something chilling. The person was holding a company ID card. He froze the frame, leaned closer. Maya, he called out. Enhance this. The image sharpened. The figure was wearing a red scarf, the same one he'd seen on one of his most trusted executives. Sophia Grant, his vice president of international operations. Alexander's face hardened. Sophia? He whispered. The betrayal cut deeper than he expected. He picked up his phone. Get Sophia in my office, now. Sophia walked in confidently, her designer bag slung over her shoulder. You wanted to see me, Alex. He didn't respond. He just turned the screen toward her. The paused security footage showing her near the conference room after hours. Her confident smirk faltered. Alex, it's not what it looks like. Then tell me what it is, he interrupted sharply. She swallowed. I was checking something for the meeting. You know how late I work. Cut it. His voice rose. You handed him access, didn't you? Her silence said it all. Alexander took a slow step forward. After all these years, after everything, you sold me out for what? Money. Her eyes glistened with defiance. You think I sold you out for money. You humiliated me, Alex. You passed me over for the board seat after everything I did. So yes, I made a deal, but I didn't think he'd go this far. He stared at her, disbelief mixing with anger. You almost destroyed the company, Sophia. You almost destroyed me. She stepped closer, whispering bitterly. Maybe you deserved it. That was the last straw. Security, he barked. 2 guards appeared instantly. Escort her out. Sophia glared at him, eyes burning with hate. You'll regret this, Alex, she hissed. People like me don't fall. We rise again. He didn't even look at her as she was dragged away. When the door shut, Alexander finally sat down, exhausted. His empire was safe, but the cost was high. Trust had been shattered, loyalty exposed, and the truth had come from the most unlikely person, a girl who had no reason to care. That evening, as the sun set over the skyline, Alexander called Amra's mother and asked if he could visit. They were shocked. No CEO had ever set foot in their tiny apartment before. When he arrived, he didn't come as a boss. He came as a man humbled by truth. He sat down across from Amara and said, You've done more for me than anyone in my company, and I owe you a debt I can't repay. Amara smiled shyly. You already did, sir. He shook his head. No, not yet. He handed her a small white envelope. Inside was an official letter, offering her a scholarship to study business at one of Dubai's top universities, fully funded by his company. Her eyes widened. Her mother gasped, Sir, this is too much. Alexander smiled warmly. It's not charity. It's an investment in the kind of honesty this world desperately needs. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. He nodded, his voice low. I know you won't. As he stood to leave, he paused at the door and said softly, You saved a company worth $500 million. Amara, but what you really saved was my faith in people. And with that, he walked away, the sound of his footsteps fading down the hallway, leaving behind a story that would be whispered across every boardroom for years. The rise of Amara. The city of Dubai glittered like a dream that night. Skyscrapers reached into the clouds, and cars shimmered like silverfish beneath the moonlight. But inside a small 2-room apartment, something even more powerful was happening. A dream was being reborn. Amara sat quietly on her bed, holding the scholarship letter in her trembling hands. The edges of the paper were already crumpled, not from neglect, but from disbelief. She had read the same words again and again, hoping they wouldn't vanish like a mirage. Full academic sponsorship, Business and Finance, Dubai International University. Her heart thumped louder with each word. It was real. She wasn't just the cleaner's daughter anymore. She was the girl who changed the fate of a $500 million empire. Her mother, Leila, stood at the window, staring at the stars. "Do you realize what this means, Amara?" she whispered. Amara smiled faintly. "It means someone finally believed in me, Mama." Leila turned, eyes glistening. "No. It means you believed in yourself first." Those words echoed in her mind long after her mother fell asleep. That night, Amara didn't close her eyes once. She kept staring at the city lights, the same lights that once felt unreachable. But now, they looked like they were shining for her. The first day of change. A week later, Amara walked through the grand gates of Dubai International University. The place looked like a palace, marble floors, glass towers, and young students dressed in designer clothes. She paused for a moment, gripping her worn-out bag tighter. Her shoes weren't new. Her clothes were simple, but her determination unbreakable. As she walked across the campus, she could feel eyes on her, curious, judgmental, mocking. A group of students whispered nearby, "Isn't she the girl from that Maid story?" "Yeah, the one who saved the CEO. Probably a publicity stunt. Look at her bag, straight out of 2010. Amara kept walking, pretending she didn't hear them. But deep down, every word cut deep, not because it hurt her pride, but because it reminded her of how people always see status before soul. That afternoon, during orientation, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Didn't expect to see you here, Amara." She turned and froze. It was Liam Gray, Alexander's son. Tall, confident, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. Liam was the living image of his father's empire. He smiled faintly. "My dad told me about you. Said you saved his company." Amara blushed. "I just spoke up when I saw something wrong." Liam nodded, impressed. "That takes guts. Most people stay quiet." For a moment, there was a silent spark between them, one of respect, not romance. Two worlds meeting in an unexpected place. The test of confidence. Weeks passed. Amara studied harder than anyone else, while others partied at night. She stayed up reading business case studies, trying to understand how contracts, mergers, and board decisions really worked. But one day, she faced her first real test. Her professor, Dr. Malik, announced, "For your midterm, each group will present a mock business pitch. You'll propose a strategy to save a failing company. The best presentation gets to intern at Gray Holdings." The class gasped. Gray Holdings, the same company Amara had saved, was the dream destination. As luck would have it, Amara was placed in the same group as three of the richest students, including Nadia, the girl who had mocked her on the first day. Nadia crossed her arms. "You can handle the cleaning of our slides, Amara, since you're good at cleaning messes." The room laughed. Amara's face burned, but she didn't say a word. Instead, she took her notebook and quietly began researching. 3 days later, when presentation day arrived, Nadia froze on stage. She hadn't prepared anything solid. The professor frowned. "This is shallow work, Nadia. Does anyone in your group have a better plan?" The room went silent until Amara stood up. "I do, sir." Whispers spread across the room like wildfire. "She's actually going to speak." Amara walked to the front, calm and composed. She didn't have fancy slides or graphics, just her words and her courage. "Sir, the key to saving a dying company isn't firing people. It's rebuilding trust between workers and management, between brand and customers. Money follows trust, always." Her tone was steady, her confidence magnetic. Even Dr. Malik leaned forward, intrigued. She continued, explaining a realistic turnaround strategy, using examples from Gray Holdings' own journey. By the time she finished, the entire room was silent, stunned. Drive Malik finally smiled. "Miss Amara, that was one of the best analyses I've heard in years." Nadia's mouth fell open. Amara walked back to her seat, heart racing but eyes bright. She didn't need applause. The silence of shock was enough. The recognition. Later that evening, Amara received an email from Gray Holdings. "Congratulations! You have been selected for the Executive Internship Program. personally approved by Mr. Alexander Gray. Tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't believe it. The same man whose contract she saved now trusted her enough to bring her into his company. When she arrived at Gray Holdings the next week, the staff looked at her differently. Some with admiration, some with envy, but all with awareness. This wasn't the maid's daughter anymore. This was Amara Hassan, the intern who earned her place. The Arabic revelation. In her third week, she stumbled upon a file labeled Arabic Deal, archived. It caught her attention. Inside were several translated clauses and letters written in Arabic. One she recognized from the night of the $500M contract. But one name stood out, Al Rashid Group. Her eyes widened. That was the company name the Arabic businessman had used, the one behind the trap. But the file was still active, meaning someone was still communicating with them. Her hands trembled. Could there be another mole inside? Just then, Liam walked in. Hey, what are you doing? She turned the screen slightly. Liam, look at this. This isn't over. He leaned in, frowning. No way. That contract was shut down months ago. She nodded. That's what I thought, too. Liam sighed. We need to tell my dad. Amara hesitated. Not yet. Let me dig first. If there's still someone helping them, we need proof. Liam looked at her, impressed and worried at the same time. You're playing with fire, Amara. She smiled faintly. Sometimes you need fire to burn down the lies. The storm before the truth. As days passed, Amara secretly followed digital trails, uncovering something shocking, a small internal account, hidden under fake credentials, transferring minor funds to a Middle Eastern subsidiary every 2 weeks, and the name attached to it, Maya? Alexander's trusted assistant. Amara's heart stopped. No, it couldn't be. She printed the files and hid them in her notebook. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with questions. How could Maya betray Alexander after everything Sophia did? Or was Maya being blackmailed? Either way, she had to find out. The hidden words that changed everything. The room was frozen. No one dared to speak. Even the air seemed to stop moving. The CEO, Richard Wallace, stood there, his hand still clutching the golden pen, eyes wide in disbelief. The contract worth $500 million lay half-signed on the table, trembling slightly from the air-conditioning vent above. And beside him stood Layla, the maid's daughter, calm, collected, but with a fire in her eyes that made even the most powerful men in the room uncomfortable. Her Arabic words still echoed through the silence like a haunting melody. The only person who understood them was Mr. Karim, the Arab businessman who had just tried to trap them all. Richard's voice finally broke the silence. What? What did she say? Karim's jaw tightened. Nothing that concerns you. But Layla took a slow step forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Oh, it concerns everyone here, Mr. Karim. Especially you. Everyone's eyes turned toward her. The investors, the assistants, even the security guards stopped breathing. The revelation. Layla reached into her bag and pulled out a small recorder. With a single click, play, the room was filled with the sound of voices speaking Arabic. It was a recording of Karim and his lawyer from the night before in the same conference room. In the recording, Karim's voice said clearly, once they sign, we'll reroute the funds through Dubai. They'll never see the missing $200 million. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Richard felt his blood turn cold. His hand trembled as he pressed it against the table. Layla looked straight at him. I translated every word this morning, sir, she said softly. They weren't planning a partnership. They were planning a theft. The power shift. Karim's face turned pale. You recorded a private meeting. That's illegal. Layla didn't flinch. So is stealing $500 million from innocent investors. Richard's voice, now filled with fury, thundered through the room. You planned to scam us, to scam my company, and you thought no one would notice. Karim tried to protest, but the board members were already on their phones, calling security, lawyers, and the press. Within seconds, chaos erupted, phones ringing, chairs scraping, whispers spreading like wildfire. But amid the chaos, Layla stood still, calm, strong, and fearless. The truth about Layla. One of the reporters, who had slipped into the room, pointed a camera at her. "Who are you? How did you even know about this?" Layla smiled faintly. "My mother has worked here for 10 years, cleaning these floors, serving coffee in this room." Nobody ever looked at her. Nobody ever asked for her name. But she listened, and I learned. She paused, glancing at Kareem. "My father was an Arabic translator. He died when I was young. My mother raised me alone. She taught me to never forget my roots, my language, or my dignity." The words hit everyone like a wave. Even Richard, a man hardened by decades of business wars, felt something stir inside him: respect, gratitude, maybe even shame. The collapse. Security walked in. The tall guards approached Kareem and his lawyer. "You're under investigation for corporate fraud," one of them said. Kareem exploded. "You'll regret this. You're nothing without my money." Layla turned toward him, eyes sharp as glass. "No, Mr. Kareem, you're nothing without your lies." As he was escorted out, his voice echoed through the hallways, shouting, threatening, but fading into insignificance. The empire he had built on deception had just collapsed, destroyed by the voice of a maid's daughter. The offer. When the chaos finally settled, Richard looked at Layla. He had seen thousands of people, businessmen, politicians, even con artists, but no one like her. "You just saved this company," he said quietly. "You saved hundreds of jobs, and you did it with nothing but courage and honesty." Layla lowered her eyes. "I only did what was right." But Richard shook his head. "No, Layla, you did what was extraordinary." He turned to the board members. "Effective immediately. I want Layla Hassan to join our company as head of ethics and compliance." Gasps again, this time of surprise and admiration. The maid's daughter, who was once invisible to everyone in that building, was now being offered one of the most powerful positions in the company. Tears welled up in Layla's eyes. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Just say yes," Richard smiled. She did. A new beginning. Days later, the story went viral. News channels, business magazines, and social media all carried the same headline. Maid's daughter exposes $500 million corporate fraud, becomes company executive. People called her brave, fearless, and an inspiration to every ordinary person who had ever been underestimated. Layla didn't chase fame. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted to make sure her mother's sacrifices meant something. Every morning, when she walked into that building, the same one her mother had once cleaned, she carried herself with quiet pride, because now she didn't just belong there, she led there. And maybe that's the lesson we all need to hear today. No matter where you come from, your courage, your voice, and your truth can change everything. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that prove one thing: the world listens when you speak the truth.